but I think it's working. All right, chat. It's kind of scuffed. Oh, no. There's an echo. Hold on. Okay, that should fix the echo. All right, so yeah, this was kind of impromptu because it took us way less time to make the Gundam we were working on tonight than we thought. But we're gonna tackle some RPG topics tonight. Grab my list of topics real quick. Thought I was ready, chat. I honestly thought I was ready. I was not ready. Or almost ready. So just bear with me while we get everything set up here. We are almost ready. Hopefully you're willing to stick with me here. Trying to get a more permanent setup for a hot seat. Hello, Will. We're almost ready to get started. Okay, so my list is prepared. I have a list here. We're talking about RPG topics. And chat, if you have a topic you would like to raise, you can, of course, at any time bring your topic forward as well. I'm going to do a couple quick things here, and then we'll be ready. The main one being we're going to do this. And we're going to move me up here. And I'm going to make you bigger, chat. Then we're going to get started. So we have all this finished up. Get the topic going for it and everything, and then we'll be good to go. So just again, sorry that it took a little while. I didn't expect to be doing a different stream right after the other stream, but we just finished up so quick there. So this one will be a little bit shorter of a hot seat stream, but it'll all work out because you'll get 2 streams for the price of 1. All right, so our hot seat is starting with RPG topics. And so specifically it is RPGs are, or let's put it this way, RPG tropes are bad. That is the topic. And I'm going to argue that they're not bad. Because I think they are in fact not bad. Okay. I think we're ready to start. The game we're playing is Puyo Puyo Tetris 2. So specifically it'll be, we're going to play the Tetris side of things. We're going to do some marathon Tetris. So, here we go. Oh no, the green screen. Of course, the green screen will start acting up right as we're getting started. Of course it would. Why would it? I was ready to start, and now here we go. All right. 3, 2. See a little bit of this. Oh, that's weird. The similarities coming through. I see why. Light got turned. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Okay. RPG tropes. Alright, so why are tropes not a bad thing? Ultimately, tropes are treated as a thing. I'm going to do this while I'm also trying to fix the audio on the stream. Oh no, I have control of this too. The audio is a little high on the stream. We're going to bring it down. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I really did not want to use this yet. Okay. JRPG tropes and all RPG tropes really are treated with this stigma, like just having a trope is a bad thing. Tropes in themselves are not bad, right? Just because you have a trope, it doesn't mean it's automatically going to be used poorly. There are great examples of tropes being used well, and I've talked myself into having to prove some of those. But such as the wounded hero trope, when you have like Guts, for instance, where Guts is an incredible character. We're going to go ahead. I wanted a Tetris, but we'll do that for now. That we only get to see him shine because of the hurts that he takes, right? You wouldn't get a story as good as Berserk if not for the wounded hero trope. And so Guts is a great example of it. However, I will give you that tropes can be used really poorly, right? Absolutely they can. Unfortunately, there's a lot of situations where tropes are used just for shock value or just to try and get one over on the audience, and I don't think that's ideal. I think that that's misusing the tropes, right? But that's not tropes' fault. And so when we look at RPGs, they say, Trey, why are you letting it get so high? It's because of this. Tetris. When we look at tropes and like how they're used in RPGs, I think that another thing that is often forgotten is that RPGs as a genre are built on tropes, right? Like we wouldn't have the genre without them. And so when you look at, I've got myself in a little bit of a sticky wicket here. That's unfortunate. All right, we're going to have to start clearing stuff out. I was trying to be fancy, but I'm talking at the same time, which is, as I'm sure you know, a problem for me. But in a lot of ways, it's what JRPGs have been built upon. RPGs in a whole have been built upon the idea of these tropes that completely losing it. I'm losing it. I'm falling apart over here. The idea of I'm falling apart. This is where we lose it. This is where we lose it all. It's all coming to nothing. I'm talking in circles trying to come up with what I'm trying to say. Oh, this is the whole point of the hot seat, right? Gotta think and play and talk. RPGs, right? Oh no. The idea of a hero that comes from nothing, right, from humble beginnings, and rises up to defeat the Demon King or defeat the dark forces, the dark god, whatever it is in that game. That is the heroic journey trope in and of itself, right? That is the idea of the hero's journey. And ultimately, I think it makes RPGs better when they use that trope than if they try to completely get a brand new thing you've never seen before and fail at it. That's not to say that somebody can't do something new and cool and still work with it and make something really great, but when they try something new just for the sake of trying something new because they want to avoid the tropes, you do kind of lose out on some of what makes that story so special to begin with. Thank you, and you can go right here, thank you. So, like, for instance, if we want to take, what is that game called? Resonance of Fate tries to do something very different and has a really fun gameplay with the different things that it tries, but doesn't really tell quite the same story that you come to expect out of an RPG, right? You look at, say, Mass Effect 1, textbook RPG, but still has the Chosen One hero story, the soldier that winds up becoming a really beloved character for a lot of people and winds up telling a really fun story because even though it is using that trope, it is doing it something different while it's using that trope, you know? And that's where I think that really shines. I wish I hadn't got myself into such a bad way here to start, because now we're just constantly playing catch up. But, oh, there's a line piece coming. Oh, that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. Tetris. Okay. What was I? Where was I at? Mass Effect is what I was talking about. Ultimately, I think that tropes can be used very well, even though they follow that same method. Stranger in Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins Stranger in Paradise is a great example of this, I think, where it uses the tropes and throws them on their head without just trying to subvert them in a way that makes it really fun and interesting when you get to those changes. Whereas, as we said, other games like Resonance of Fate, what is the game called with the werewolves? They try and just follow the tropes again, or subvert them, I guess you could say, is what I mean when I say that again. Man, it's hard to think and play Tetris at the same time. And it winds up giving you a game that, while it has some interesting gameplay ideas, it's just not very interesting story-wise. I think, like, a weird alternative of that is the Order 1886, which has some cool technical aspects. That's not an RPG, though, so why am I talking about it? Oh boy, nope, I should have dropped that there. Why am I on the Order? It's not an RPG. Can't use that point. Gotta drop that point. Hopefully this is interesting to watch. I feel like I'm just falling apart on live television right now. Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, the reason that they still go back to these tropes all the time is because the tropes themselves aren't the problem, right? It's over-reliance on the trope to tell your story for you. I think a great example of a game that doesn't follow the tropes at all, but I could have used that, but is really good still, is... I can see the box art in my head. What's it called, Trey? What's it called? Golden Sun. Golden Sun is such an interesting game that throws a lot of the preconceived notions that you would have on their head, right? It tells a very new story with gens as compared to your regular summons or your icons that you're going to get in Final Fantasy. That's not where I meant to put that. And it does all of that while giving you still the basic, like, here's Isaac. He's your hero farm boy from a small village, right? Here's the mage girl. Here's each of the tropes still works because they're not trying to just tell that story. They're using the tropes to tell their own story. And that's where I think they really shine. Because a lot of what we call tropes today are just what has persisted, right? It's the hero Final Fantasy guy with the big hair. And I needed that actually. It's the hero that doesn't speak, except for situations where he does, and, you know, it's used to a pretty good degree. You have the big tough guy that's not very smart, and when that trope is subverted in a fun way, as compared to just, you know, throwing a big tough guy there, you can have a good time with it. But also, if you give me a game that has a big tough guy who's not very smart, I'm probably still going to love that guy. You know, he's still going to be one of my favorite characters in the game. You have the girl that uses healing magic. That's a trope that I'm glad has kind of fallen away. Anybody can use healing magic. Dragon Quest gave us a great example of that with Carol. And I just thought about the Carol from Tales of Vesperia, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about, because that game does not follow the tropes. Yuri Lowell is not your regular hero guy. He is... Nope, that's not where I wanted that to go. He is a very different main character in a lot of ways. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I've said at the end of the day like 3 times now, it all depends on how you're using the trope and not on the trope itself. If you try to have the trope tell the story for you, it's going to fail. It's not going to work. But if you use the trope to utilize your own story, you can have something really cool and interesting. That's not where I wanted that to go, or that. Oh boy. Yeah, it all just comes down to how you utilize the tropes, ultimately. This is not going very well. Actually, I really could have used that. Okay. I don't think there's anything more to go over with that. I feel like we should change topics. But also, whatever topic I change to, we're probably not going to be on very long. So we're gonna change the topic. We're gonna change the topic. But I apologize if the topic dies quickly. All right. The idea that RPGs have become too anime. All right. So why is it that people say that RPGs are too anime? I think it's because of the abundance of anime-styled RPGs, right? But just as with the tropes, it's not the anime style that's the problem. It's that some of the games that use that style just aren't very good, unfortunately. And there are some that are great, and in those situations, why would it matter if the art style is anime or not when the game is what you're here for? A great example of this is Tales of Vesperia, which we mentioned a minute... Why didn't you go over? Why didn't you go over? Which we mentioned a minute ago, which has a really cool art style that is definitely anime, right? But it's not just relying on anime cliches or anything like that. It's an interesting art style used to strengthen that game and let the characters shine a little bit more. We are falling apart right now. Oh, this is bad. This is real bad. And I think a lot of people have this problem with, like, I see it with Fire Emblem, which is really weird to me because Fire Emblem was always anime in a lot of ways. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. This is a problem. This is a problem. We're in trouble. We might be about to lose it right here. But Fire Emblem is not... First off, it's not a problem if Fire Emblem's anime because it's always been anime. But second off, just going, well, yeah, it's anime now, and so it's bad. Like, well, that's not how that works, right? Just because something has an anime art style doesn't mean that it's bad. Oh, no. Oh, no! Yeah. We can come back from this. And so, what it comes down to for me is, why do you have a problem with the anime art style? Is it because you've been burned by games that weren't good that use that art style? Or is it because you just don't like the style? Because I guess if you just don't like the style, there's nothing I could say that would change your mind, right? But if your problem is that you've been burned in the past by games that are too anime, I shouldn't have moved my hand, then maybe you just played the wrong game. You know, maybe you should try some other games out, because there's a lot of great games that people say are, oh no, that people say are too anime, and that's not the problem. The problem is not that they're anime. The problem is that they're not very good. Whereas the games that are too anime, oh, there it is.
I need to study more.
All right. 13 minutes. Beat our old high score. Not too bad. Definitely could have done better, though. There were some rough spots there. All right. Next topic. Okay. Grinding. Here we go. Okay, so what is grinding, right? And what's the problem with grinding? So grinding in an RPG is when you have to spend time gaining experience to be able to complete a challenge the game has presented to you. Oftentimes I see people mistake grinding to just mean anytime they have to fight enemies. That's not grinding. That's just you're fighting enemies, man. But I understand why people would be upset at the idea of having to go back and fight enemies over and over again that maybe they don't want to beat, maybe they don't need to beat anymore. They've already proven they can defeat them. There's a really interesting subcase of this, I think, which is like Dark Souls 2, where Dark Souls 2 goes, hey, once you kill an enemy 11 times, clearly you don't need help killing this enemy anymore. You have this enemy on lock. We're going to remove this enemy from the respawning pool so that you never have to see this enemy again. And I know a lot of people that love that they did that. I know a lot of people that is their favorite thing about that game. For me personally, while it's a cool system, the purpose of grinding is not always experience, right? It's the definition, but experience is not always what you need. Sometimes you need materials. Sometimes you just like the combat system and want to fight some more enemies. And so when we just say outright that grinding is bad or that it's a problem, we ignore all the good aspects of grinding. And I know there are going to be some people mad just at me even saying the good aspects of grinding. But, like, hear me out, you know. Give me a chance. Let me cook. A game that has... I'll give some examples of games that have really good grinding and some games that have really bad grinding, right? When I am playing Mass Effect 2, I'm not having to grind. I like that combat system a lot. I want to interact more with that combat system. I want to do more with that combat system. And so I'm fighting every enemy that I can, basically. I am doing everything I can to get more of that combat system. And you may say, well, Mass Effect 2 is an action RPG. It doesn't count. Sure, okay, if we want to go by that definition, when we look at, say, Fallout, I'm not going to avoid enemies in Fallout, right? Well, that's a WRPG. I don't care about the distinctions, to be honest with you. But in Final Fantasy X, I'm not going to avoid enemies. I want to fight enemies in Final Fantasy X because I enjoy that combat system. I enjoy the turn-based nature of it. I enjoy switching between all my characters. I enjoy leveling things up in the sphere grid. I'm playing Chained Echoes right now for review on the channel, and I really enjoy the basic combat in Chained Echoes, and it always helps me to do the basic combat. There's never a moment where I'm not going to get something. I'll either get materials, or I'll get SP to upgrade my characters, or I will, you know, slowly build up more points to be able to do things with my sky armors. And there is never a point where I'm avoiding combat because I enjoy the combat system. You don't have to grind in that game, though. Theoretically, you could just brute force your way through every encounter up until you get to the end. But if you want to grind, the option is there. And to me, that's the best way to do it, right? If you have people that really don't want to grind, and then you have a system that allows you to grind if you want to, but doesn't force you to, I think that is a great way to do it. There are games that don't hit that balance, unfortunately. Yakuza Like a Dragon. Love that game. Great turn-based system. Unfortunately, Yakuza Like a Dragon has a really bad difficulty spike partway through, and if you're not prepared for that difficulty spike, you're going to... don't know why I did that. You're going to really struggle, and so you have to grind. If you want to not struggle on that difficulty spike, you have to grind, and that sucks. That's a terrible feeling of, hey, I want to see more of the story. I want to move forward with this, but I have to grind because I wasn't high enough level to fight this boss. And at the end of the day, I think that all you're doing when you include something like that is hurting your game, because there'll be people that get to that boss that haven't had any problems with anything else, and they get to that difficulty spike and they go, all right, yeah, no, I'm done. I'm not going to play this game anymore. I don't want to have to sit here and grind out 20 levels to be able to beat this. And I'm sure some people go, well, it's not 20 levels. It's just a couple minutes. It's not that big of a deal. It depends on the game, because another example of really rough grinding is in... I have messed up. In Dragon Quest 2, or Dragon Warrior 2 as we got it over here, there is a difficulty spike right at the end of the game that goes up by like 30 levels. And you just have to grind it out because you don't have any other choice. You don't grind it out, you're not beating the final boss. You're not getting to Hargon. if you don't grind it out. And that feels bad. And there's another variation of this, which is something that Xenoblade Torna the Golden Country does. The first big, like, Xenoblade 2, I say first, the big Xenoblade 2 DLC. Which is, yeah, if you want to continue the story, you got to grind out all this reputation for all of these people so that you can continue the story. And it's like, I don't want to do that, though, Xenoblade. I want to see the rest of the story. Why are we doing this? And so, grinding is not the problem. Much like the tropes, we're just second verse, same as the first. The problem is when it's utilized poorly and when it's used as a tool to extend game time instead of as a fun mechanic that players can interact with. Monarch is really bad. Yeah, I don't doubt it. There are a lot of games that require a ton of grinding. Destiny's a really big one. Destiny, I know it's not a regular RPG. Destiny requires a lot of grinding. MMOs have the same problem, right? Where you have to grind a lot to get some stuff. But normally it's optional stuff. Because normally just by doing the story, you're going to be getting enough XP to level and to keep up with the story. There's some big moments where that changes. 14 has a few where during the story you're going to have to do some side stuff. But normally in the process of doing the story, you get to that side stuff anyway. And so it's not that big of a deal. You know, I remember in, like, that was a mistake. I'm focusing on stories and not playing. In old school WoW, when I used to play that all the time, way back when, you could get to a point where you just couldn't do any more of your story because you weren't high enough level. And that's the way that old MMOs were, you know? You had to grind out those levels. I'm glad that nowadays there are ways to get around it, is I guess the way I want to put it, that make that easier. Because it used to be a real big issue, unfortunately. I did not mean to put that there. I did not want to put that there. Trying to get that spot clear over there, but here we are. Really didn't need that line piece right now. Gonna need one in a little bit, but okay. Back to the topic. When it comes down to it with grinding, I think the big takeaway is don't make me grind when I don't want to, and we're good. Your game should have combat good enough and fun enough that I want to spend more time with it, even if I don't have to. And there's another side to this too, which is, what about when grinding makes you too OP, and then you can't, there's no difficulty anymore. You just completely destroyed the difficulty of the game. And that, unfortunately, like, that's a problem. You know, that happens way too easily in a lot of RPGs. Woo! We're rocking now. I think a great example of that is in in Valkyria Chronicles 1, you could get into, like, you could skirmish, and you could skirmish over and over and over again, and eventually you could get your classes leveled up to a point where you were not going to have problems with any of the story missions coming up, really. But at the same time, you have to do so many skirmishes to get that is a player choice thing at that point. They have decided they want that if it's happening. That is not a thing that just happens on its own, you know? Whereas there are other games that, without even meaning to, you overlevel stuff almost instantly. I'm trying to think of the example that came very recently. Oh, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. You do any side content at all, and you are overleveling most of the rest of the game, which is a problem. You know, people should be able to choose whether they want to grind or not. And when you make XP too easy to get, then unfortunately you remove that choice, and it's just, oh no, then it's just, you know, hey, here it is, you're overleveled, you didn't mean to be, you grinded when you shouldn't have. It's like, well, no, I didn't grind, I just played the game. Oh no, I can't get over there. No. That's not the one that I meant to have there. And so I feel like, again, we've kind of talked this topic to death, but I don't want to switch off when we're so clearly going to die soon. What are some games that I really love the grinding in? Let's see. I really like grinding in games where when I'm grinding, I unlock fun things. In the Tales series, normally you will have, like, by doing a little bit more of this combat, you will unlock a new costume for somebody or something like that, you know? New dialogues. I love grinding in Super Robot Wars. I want everybody to be an ace in Super Robot Wars, and so I will just sit there and grind out missions upon grind out missions just to get everybody leveled. Because I love leveling people up and grinding them out to be aces in Super Robot Wars. Oh no, oh no, oh no. This is where it all goes wrong, chat! Chat! Chat, let them know I tried. Chat, let them know I tried! We're still in the game, chat! We're still in the game! No!
I need to study more.
We only made it 12 minutes that time. I love the idea that I lost in the middle of an ad. I love that. Alright, I'm looking at my list here trying to pick the next one. Unless you have a topic, chat. I love the idea that I lost in the middle of an ad. That hot chocolate is over an hour and a half old. It's not hot anymore. I'm looking at my list, chat. If you have a topic, we'll cover it. But if not, I do have the list here. This is Trey. Getting old. Thank you for that oof. All right, let's see. Let's... All right, chat. I do have one, but I'm going to give you another chance while I'm pulling this up to... Got nothing? Okay. Let's talk about turn-based combat. Here we go. Okay. I should preface this by saying that I absolutely love turn-based combat. And so... I prefer turn-based in a lot of ways to action-based. And so I'm going to approach this from the perspective of somebody who loves turn-based combat, turn-based games. What is the problem with them that people have? People say they're too slow. People say that they fall asleep playing turn-based games. I think there is a level of technical complexity that you can reach with turn-based games that you can't reach with action games. There are plenty of action RPGs that I love. Things like, good job, Trey. Can't come up with any examples while you're trying to play Tetris and talk at the same time. Things like, what is it called? I'm looking at it in my mind. What is it called? Doing a great job standing up for this. Tales of the Abyss, one of my favorite games of all time. That's not turn-based. That is free roam action, and I really love it. The older Yakuza games, like a Dragon games now, those are not turn-based. Those are all action, and I love them. But why is it that turn-based to me is the preferred way to play, and what is it about turn-based that makes me love them more? Well, ultimately, I think it's because I can play a turn-based game, and I can really focus on what I want to do. everything becomes about turn economy. And turn economy is a really fun thing for me to plan out. And so it almost becomes math the game, which I also understand why a lot of people don't like it. But for sure, I understand that for sure too. And that's another great aspect, is that they're available for more people to play that couldn't play other games. But for me, it just comes down to personal preference, I guess, which is I like being able to plan things out. I like being able to come up with things on the fly, as compared to having to plot it out, you know, having to pick a strategy and try to go with it. And you can say, well, that's exactly what you're doing with turn-based. You're picking a strategy and going with it. Yeah, but I can sit there and I can plan it out and see if I'm going to be happy with it or not. And what I often find happens is I get into a groove where I've convinced myself that everything's going great, everything's going to plan, and I don't even notice that the enemy has buffed and I'm out of time and I get taken out. And I think when you get into stuff like buffs that are much harder to pull off in real-time games than they are turn-based games, I think that you get to some really fun options, right? There are things you can do in turn-based that you can't do in every other game. I have made a lot of mistakes already here, and we are paying for them. You may say, well, what do you mean? What's some stuff you can only really do in turn-based games? Okay. Well, let me give you an example. There is a gear mechanic in Chained Echoes, and that gear mechanic relies on you managing your overdrive gauge while in your mech. It's something that you can plan out turns ahead for each individual character, how they're going to use their overdrive gauge, how they're going to use their gears, that if you were trying to play all of them at once in real time, I think you would really struggle to be able to manage that mechanic. I think it would be very overwhelming to try and control all 4 characters and all 4 of their gears at one time. You can say, well, Trey, that's where stuff like the Gambit systems come in. And Gambit systems are great. Gambit systems are wonderful. Gambit systems allow you to do a lot of things you can't do otherwise in an action game, in a real-time game. But Gambit systems don't solve that problem. It's not the same as having direct control. And sometimes you just got to be Harbinger and assume direct control. That said, I also really like real-time RPGs as well. There's some really cool things you can do with those, and I think that Final Fantasy VII Remake is a great example of mixing the two, where you have some regular turn-based elements and you have some non-turn-based elements, and together they make a really interesting game. I'm still probably always going to prefer turn-based, not just because it's what I grew up with, but also because I do think that for the genre, it gives you a lot more options, and I think makes things a lot easier. I do as well. I love having a grid where you control the characters across the grid, and you have to move them around, and their individual movement scores matter. Things like that you couldn't do in a real-time game because you can't move everybody all at once unless it's like a strategy game, I guess, in which case that's very different. But I also know that a lot of people don't like turn-based games, and they are a dying genre to some. I don't think they're going anywhere, but I've seen a lot of people say that, right? That the genre's dying, the genre's going out, and very soon their JRPGs will be dead, and regular turn-based RPGs will be dead. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. But I also get where they're coming from. They don't enjoy that style of game. And so to see it take off like it has is probably a little frustrating. I'd recommend, if you're somebody that has that problem, that you try some more turn-based games. Not to just be recommending Persona like everybody always does, but Persona is a series that really thrives in the turn-based landscape. It's a series that utilizes the turn-based feature, the turn-based function, I guess you could say, to a really high degree in a way that I find really satisfying. Ooh. It's not where I wanted to put that, but okay. Wow, I misclicked. Yeah, some turn-based RPGs I would recommend. You should check out. Basically, any turn-based Final Fantasy is going to be great, but 6 and 4 are incredible. You should check out the older Dragon Quest games. You should check out Chained Echoes. You should check out Octopath Traveler. All of those are great and really good examples of the genre. I think that was a mistake. That was also a mistake. Oh boy, we're choking. It's time for the choke.
Solved it.
But there's always going to be some games in the genre that aren't for everybody, right? And so I get where people that don't like turn-based will say, hey, you know, this game's coming out and it's turn-based and that's frustrating to me. But when I hear a game that's coming out that I'm excited for and people tell me, oh, it's turn-based, I'm like, yeah, let's go. I love turn-based. Especially because I don't get a lot of that. For a while, it was just action games for a very long time. And we have only fairly recently gotten back to turn-based popping up more.
Solved it. Got it.
So yeah, I'm just happy to see turn-based games come back. I like them a lot. That's not where I meant to put any of those.
Solved it.
And ultimately, I think if you have a problem with turn-based, we've lost. It's over. If you have a problem with turn-based games, you should just give them another shot. That's all I'm saying. Maybe you just played the wrong one. It kind of goes back to the same thing we were talking about with the tropes, right? Maybe you just didn't play the right one.
I need to study more.
All right, chat. I don't know when it goes. We'll do one more. One more. Let's see. Ooh. All right. This is a good one. Let's talk about random encounters. Because actually, I might have a different opinion than what I have on the other ones where I've said the topic and I'm against the topic. So we'll do one more, and then we'll call it, and I'll go make my hash browns. And again, I know it's build night, but we finished our build early. Our boys right here. So we're doing some hot seat. Okay. Random encounters. Let's go. All right. The question, of course, is should we have random encounters or should we just have enemies on the map? Is it better to have set enemies or is it better to have the open map with random enemies? And this one goes back a long ways. This is a topic that has been done to death, but nobody's been able to find a solid answer to, and you're probably not gonna, because it's gonna differ for every person. I am personally in the camp that I would rather see the enemies on the map so that I can choose to skip them if I want to, but if I don't want to, I can fight them. I am one of the people that goes, hey, I understand why RPGs have had the enemy randomly attacks you map transition thing for a long time. It's just not my thing. I much prefer being able to see the enemies on the map and being able to choose if I want to interact with them or not. And I know that's travesty to a lot of people. I get that. But for me, when I get to choose how I want to interact with the world, it gives me the option to spend more time with it, which I'm probably going to do. Or if I'm in a rush, I don't have to. if I want to show somebody something cool and I want to go fight a specific enemy, I can just go do that. And I know that a lot of people don't like calling them RPGs, but the Soul series, I think, has it down pat, right? Of you see the enemy, you get this moment of shock of like, oh, what is that thing? And then you get to try and deal with it. And then every time you see it from then, you know what to deal with. Whereas with random encounters, you have enemies that pop up on screen. They maybe surprise you the first time. You don't know what their stats are going to be like. So, there is that you have to deal with. Maybe they look super cool and really intimidating, but ultimately, you're kind of just going, hey, here they are, here's the enemy, deal with it. Instead of figuring out a fun way to introduce them or anything like that. Some communities in Gledim, such as COD. Glad you're not in. Yeah, I understand. It's funny, the hot seat game I was going to do tonight was Titanfall, but EA was being weird with the download stuff. Made me think about that when talking about COD. And you can say, well, it's still just as big a reveal when you hit the enemy that you've never seen before, and you have to try to figure out how to deal with in a JRPG. And yeah, I get that. To me, it doesn't hit as hard as seeing it on the map and having to figure out how to deal with it. I know I've been talking about Chained Echoes a lot tonight, but I'm working on it for review right now. And in Chained Echoes, there is a place you can go where there are these Drake enemies on the map. And as soon as I saw them and how much bigger they are than most enemies, I was like, oh, that's going to be a tough mob to fight. That one's going to be difficult. And it was. And I was able to be rewarded by that as compared to just the jump scare of, oh, here's another new enemy type. This one looks real tough. How you going to deal with it, Trey? So for me, it's far more enjoyable when I get to see them. The Tales series does this really well, where you see the enemies on the map and you get to choose how you want to approach them. There are, like we said, the Soul series where you can choose to buff before you fight specific enemies. Just for me personally, it is far more enjoyable to see them and then be able to deal with them as I wish, as compared to just, here's a random enemy. Especially because, what if I'm searching for a specific... I did not mean to put that green one there, by the way. That was an accident. That's the whole point of the hot seat, baby. What if I'm searching for a specific material and I know the mob that drops it, and I have to just constantly grind, running back and forth in the grass, trying to find that one enemy that drops it, as compared to going, hey, yeah, I know what drops it, so I'm just going to be looking for that. That's the only mob I want to deal with today. And Pokemon is pretty bad with it, I think. Of worlds you can walk around and explore. Artists really show off and immerse you. Yeah. Fumbling through the map and finding an intimidating enemy. I agree 100%. Pokemon is a pretty big problem with the, hey, I'm trying to find this one specific Pokemon. Random encounters. They've changed it recently where you can see the Pokemon on the map, but yeah, I get the appeal of it, and there was a time where it was my favorite thing as well, because you never knew what you were going to get. But as I've played the games more, specifically when I go back and play an older RPG, I'm like, man, I don't care. I'm just trying to get through this cave. Just let me get through this cave, please. And the fact that there are items you can use to circumvent it is like, okay, well, that's good, but that just lets me avoid the system. Then maybe the system's not something that needs to be there, Oh, 100%. 100%. Turn it all into gotcha. Hey, you're trying to find this specific mob? You shall not pass indeed. You shall not get through this cave without running into your 1000th Zubat. You're trying to find this one specific mob? Okay, that'll be $4, or you can roll on this low chance to get it. Should not have done that. That was a mistake. But ultimately, that's where I'm at on it. And Loot Monster 2039, yeah. Okay, all right. Let's switch topics. I think we've worked that one through. Normally we try to do them till we die, but I think we've pretty much got where we're going on that one. The benefits and the negatives. I do have one more for you here. This one is crazy to me, but when I was looking for topics, I found this. So, let me preface this before we resume. I dug up some common complaints about RPGs so that we can talk about them tonight. In the hot seat. And this will probably be our last topic. But the complaint is that RPGs have weak antagonists. Okay. So let's tackle this. By what metric, first off, are we calling them weak? And second off, you what, bro? You trying to tell me RPGs have weak antagonists when we got the GOAT? Kefka? When we got our boy? Kuja? Kuja's not a great example, I guess, but Golbez? And those are just Final Fantasy, right? Arden, Sephiroth. If we go outside of Final Fantasy, then we have, you know, Luca Blight, not Luca Bright. I was about to drop a spoiler for the Trail series. Let me not do that right now. McBurn. We have Emmett Selk. I don't understand this idea of weak antagonists, and I guess it comes from, like, Garland. Garland, will knock you all down, right? Is that where it's coming from? Because if that's where it's coming from, look, man, Garland gets way better than that if you just finish that game. But also just the idea of, you know, yeah, well, the antagonists are weak. And that's what's wrong with JRPGs, or with RPGs in general. What? What do you mean, man? Give me some examples, because what I'm thinking of are pretty good antagonists. The main antagonist of Tales of the Abyss. I'm trying not to do too many spoilers. Final Fantasy has a tree. There's an evil tree. And that's not even counting, like, Gilgamesh. Moretti from Golden Sun. I don't know, I just feel like going, hey, just as a whole, they have a weak antagonist. Are there RPGs that have weak antagonists? Sure. I think that Saren in Mass Effect 1 is a pretty weak antagonist. Trying to think of some more weak... It's actually really hard to think about weak antagonists. Oh boy. Getting fast. Not where I wanted to put that. It's really hard to think of weak antagonists while I'm at this difficulty level. Weak as in bad characters is the argument. That the game is ruined because of a bad villain. And I don't see how that can be true for just like blanket RPGs when there's people like Kefka around. Is like Cloud of Darkness weak as a villain? Sure. I won't argue with you there. Ultimicia's not the greatest. Trying to think of stuff that's not Final Fantasy, and I just keep thinking about Final Fantasy.
Solved it.
Um,
Solved it.
Octopath Traveler 1's main, like, big bad, not that great. Sure. But for all the bad ones, there's so many good ones.
Solved it.
It's not where I wanted to put that. There we go. It's not where I wanted to put that either. Definitely not where I wanted to put any of... Oh, boy. All right.
Solved it.
It's all falling apart now.
Solved it.
Back on topic. Back on topic. It just feels like a really weird claim to make when I think that the villains are some of people's favorite parts about JRPGs and about RPGs in general.
Solved it. Solved it. Solved it.
Like, the main antagonist of Valkyria Chronicles is incredible. The main antagonist of Valkyria Chronicles 4 is incredible. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Solved it.
It's all falling apart! No!
I need to study more.
That was our worst showing yet, chat, and I'm going to blame it on the fact that I was trying to think of antagonists. What I'm going to blame it on. Yeah, so it was a weird Wednesday in a lot of ways, but we finished our build in less than an hour. So we did a hot seat stream. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Next week, we'll have MO Mondays. On Monday, we'll have the regular Tuesday podcast. We'll have our Wednesday night show, Rundgren's Assignment, where Rundgren plays whatever game is voted on Tuesday night. Then Thursday, we'll be talking about Aztec mythology in our TTRPG podcast. And the next Friday, we'll be painting as we work on these boys. The Eldari Corsairs. So hopefully you'll come hang out with us for all those. Thanks everybody that hung out tonight. And until next time. Also, just real quick, if you want to submit hot seat topics, you can do so in the comment section. You can whisper me on Twitter or on Twitch. You can DM me on Twitter or just tag me on Twitter. Any of those things if you want to submit hot seat topics or hot seat games that should be done for hot seat. But until next time, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. And remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that RPGs